Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror sci-fi show where things can get totally radical. Now today, I will be welcoming my third member of the Blues Brothers band, Tom Bones Malone. Yes, I'm having him on the show today to talk about his whole music career and how he got to Saturday Night Live and got to play in the Blues Brothers band. And he also played with so many other greats. Doc Severinsen, Woody Herman, Frank Zappa, Blood, Sweat, and Tears, and many others. I'm going to ask him about all that stuff today. Now, we're in a state of panic now because of the coronavirus, but I want everyone to know that I'm very optimistic and that life goes on and we need to press on in order to grow, and we will beat this dreadful, dreadful catastrophe in our modern society. So, here is my interview with Tom Bones Malone. Hey, Tom.
Tommy, how are you, buddy?
I am great. How are you, sir?
Super duper.
Awesome. Awesome. Welcome to the show. This is such a great honor. Thank you for taking the time today.
It's my pleasure to be here.
So, going back in time, at what age did you start gravitating toward music?
Well, when I was, my older brother was 2 years older than me, and when he was 5 and I was, let me see, no, he was 6 and I was 4. My older brother got a violin, and I'm not sure how interested in music I really was, but I wanted a violin because my older brother had one, and that may have been the only reason. But around the same time, my mother and dad got a record player. It was a big old
phonograph.
It was a big old wooden radio, and they bought a turntable that plugged into the back of it somehow. And now we're talking 1951. And one of the records she got was Tchaikovsky, and there was something that she really liked. But on the other side was 1812 Overture, and that was the first music that I loved. I'd play with the little war toys while the 1812 Overture was going on. And of course, it's full of violins.
Yeah.
And anyway, so by the time my older brother was 7 and I was 5, I got my own little violin. It was a 1/16 style violin. I still have it down in the basement.
Wow.
And I started taking lessons. I was a military brat. My dad was a U.S. Navy pilot, Pearl Harbor survivor, and we were living in Hawaii at the time. So I started studying with a guy, Wotan Zollner was his name, and he played in the Honolulu Symphony. And I used to go for a lesson every week with my brother. And so I played violin, and we moved to California, and I played in the Garden Grove Youth Symphony in Garden Grove, California, for a couple of years. Moved to Maryland, and I played in the Warrington Youth Orchestra in Maryland, Patuxent River, Maryland, and then we moved to Pensacola and played in the Pensacola Youth Symphony. Then my dad retired, bought a farm in South Mississippi, and there was no symphony to play in, so I sort of lost interest, stopped taking lessons, sort of put the violin down. And
wow.
So, now I'm in the 6th grade in a rural school in the middle of nowhere in Mississippi, Summerall, Mississippi, population 819. We live 3.5 miles out of town. A farm, 240-acre farm. I was milking cows, hauling hay, picking corn. There's some stuff like that. I had my own shotgun when I was 11 years old. Learned to drive the tractor when I was 11. Anyway, so I'm at 6th grade. Our classroom window looked out over the high school football stadium. Well, it wasn't a stadium; it was just a field.
Yeah.
It was the school went from 1 to 12, all in the same school. Maybe 800 students altogether. So the 6th grade window looked out over the football And every afternoon at 2 o'clock, the marching band used to rehearse. And there was something about the marching band that was fascinating to me.
Mm-hmm.
So one day there was an announcement on the public address system says anybody who's interested in joining the band should go to the band hall Thursday night and bring your parents. So my older brother and I showed up with my parents. The guy from the music store had all the instruments laid out. I picked up a trombone and I could almost play it. So my dad asked the guy how much the trombone was. And I said we couldn't afford it. And then so we're walking out the door and the band director grabs me and says, you can play the school's tuba. It doesn't cost anything. So my brother and I, the school had two tubas, brother and I started playing the tuba that summer and took a tuba home and practiced it on the front porch. And I remember all the cattle from the neighboring pasture used to come up and moo at the fence.
Mm-hmm.
I would practice tuba because it sounded like a mating call of a male tuba. I mean, male tuba. Mating call of a bull.
Yeah.
So fall when I was 12, 7th grade, started playing tuba in the marching band. Marching band was not that difficult. We played the Bennett Band Book No. 1, which had 15 marches in it, and that was our entire repertoire.
Mm-hmm.
So, so 12 years old, 7th grade, playing tuba in the marching band. The following year, we got a new band director, and he was a professional trombone player in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. It was 18 miles away from the town of Summerall. And he saw me looking at his trombone one day in his office, and he says, "You want to play that thing, don't you?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, so told him my story. Mm-hmm. He loaned me his own personal trombone and said, "Here's where the positions are. Gave me, here's a beginner book. Go home and learn how to play it."
Mm-hmm.
So I did. I went home, and 3 weeks later, I was first chair in the marching band. Not because I was that good, but because the music was very simple.
Yeah.
And I learned the relationship of the notes of the tuba and the trombone and how the slide positions and the valve combinations corresponded with each other. And so to me, the trombone was like a tuba, except it was an octave higher. Mm-hmm. But it was the same fingerings with this theory in mind. And then my little brother got a cornet, and I started, when he wasn't playing it, I learned how to play the cornet, and I learned how to play the first cornet parts to the marching band music. Mm-hmm. So by now I'm about 14, and I'm playing trumpet, trombone, and tuba. A bunch of guys come over to my house one night, a couple of guitar players and a drummer and a sax player, and they said, "We're going to start a rock and roll band. You want to be in it?" And I said, "Sure." I had no idea what rock and roll was, mm-hmm. or anything else, but so I got out my trombone while I was setting up the drums and the amps in the living room, and they looked at me like I was crazy. And this is 1961. Mm-hmm. So they said, I said, "What's up?" And they said, "You don't have trombones in rock and roll bands." And I said, "Why not?" And they said, "You just don't." So I said, "Well, what am I supposed to do? I want to be in the band. I want to hang with the cats, and I want to meet girls." Yeah. So they said, you have to learn how to play saxophone." So my buddy, my best friend from high school, whose name was Alan Summerall, was the sax player that was there in my living room, and he had an alto and a tenor with him. And so he started showing me how to play tenor sax, started showing me the fingerings, and we worked out some routines that night, some very sort of simple riffs, to play on some of the songs that the guitar player singer knew. Mm-hmm. And boom, I was motivated to learn how to play this instrument. I didn't own a tenor sax, but the sax player in the school band, who was in the 4th grade, he played the tenor sax that the school owns. Mm-hmm. So every Friday afternoon, before the kid got on the school bus, me and Al somehow would go and just grab the horn and use it for the weekend. Mm-hmm. This went on. So we were actually started playing gigs with this band in about 3 weeks. And we were playing some sock hops for the teenagers who were in the area, and we played in some really sleazy dives. told Dan Aykroyd when he was writing this script for the Blues Brothers movie, I told him that we played in a place that had chicken wire over the bandstand.
Yeah.
And he put that in the movie. Some really sleazy dives we played in. But anyway, I was playing professionally when I was 14, and we'd make, $9, $10, $12 a night playing music. And I loved it. I got involved and started listening to the radio at night. We could pick up 3 radio stations at night. I think it was WWL in New Orleans.
Yeah.
And there was a Little Rock, Arkansas had a blues station.
Mm-hmm.
And Memphis had a rhythm and blues station. Sort of the new Memphis rhythm and blues. We're talking about Rufus Thomas.
Yeah.
New sound that was coming out of Memphis at the time. The TMGs. And so I'm listening to this music at night all the time. And I started becoming aware of people like James Brown and Ray Charles. It fascinated me. I guess that was where I really got started with music.
Wow. And how many instruments overall do you play?
I play 14 instruments professionally.
Wow.
I play electric bass, tuba, bass trombone, euphonium, bass trumpet, regular trumpet, B-flat trumpet, flugelhorn, piccolo trumpet, alto sax, tenor sax, baritone sax, flute, piccolo, alto flute.
Wow. So you were like a child prodigy.
Well, I was playing most of these instruments by the time I was 19, for sure. I think I started playing the electric bass when I was 19. But the electric bass was quite easy compared to the violin.
Yeah.
Now you've got these notes that are far apart as opposed to being close together, and you had frets, which was kind of like cheating to me. It was kind of like it's like I playing a valve trombone. It was cheating.
Yeah. So because you were a late bloomer to rock and roll and stuff, did you grow up mostly on jazz and classical?
Well, it was just classical was the only thing I ever played on the violin, and I never really listened to much. Never really could afford to buy many records. However, when I started playing the trombone, I went to the record store in Hattiesburg, and believe it or not, I'm 72 years old, by the way. So, believe it or not, you could go to the record store and put the record on the turntable and listen to it before you purchased it.
Yeah.
So I saved up enough money from I was mowing yards, breaking leaves, stuff like that, like kids did, to make extra change, and I saved up enough money to buy a record.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to the store and I heard the persuasive trombone of Irby Green, and put the needle on. Boom! I want to sound just like this guy. So I took the record home. I guess I had to be 13 or 14 at the time. So I took the record home, and I just played along with the record. I just wanted to sound like this guy. And there was nobody, I lived so far out in the woods, there was nobody to say, oh, that's too hard, you can't do it. Those notes are too high. There's no way you can play those. So I just played along with Irby Green, and that made me happy. Years later, when I was playing in the band at North Texas State, Leon Breeden, the director of bands, brought Irby Green in to be the clinician. Mm-hmm. So now I'm up on the stage swapping floors with Irby Green. And that made a big impression on me.
Nice.
But suddenly my idol is right next to me. And he comes over, takes me out to breakfast, comes over to my house, my apartment, the night before, and has a beer with the guys. Mm-hmm. He just couldn't have been nicer.
Wow. That's good when you meet your idol and, he doesn't disappoint you.
Oh, yeah. It was just, that was more encouragement for me, to say the least. After I graduated college at the little town in Summerall, Mississippi, I went to school at the University of Southern Mississippi in Hattiesburg, which was 18 miles away.
Yeah.
And I played, I think the first year, I played alto sax in the stage band. Mm-hmm. Second year, I played trombone and I wrote some arrangements. We went to the Mobile Jazz Festival in the spring of 1967.
Mm-hmm.
And so I played some solos and they played some of my arrangements with the big band. The 1 o'clock lab band from North Texas State just happened to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Lou Marini, and
yep.
I met Lou. I heard him play and I heard his arrangements. And Lou says, "Man, you should really transfer to North Texas State next year." So I did.
Yeah.
It changed the rest of my life. I started meeting all these musicians and playing gigs with them. And so I was at North Texas State for a couple of years. I missed my graduation because I went on the road with Woody Herman. and then I went. I got my degree in psychology, by the way. I do not have a music degree.
Oh.
I got when I first started the school in Hattiesburg, and I was a music major, and I took a class called Music Theory, which was a class, and for a couple of weeks, and I always answered all the questions that the guy asked, and then after a couple of weeks, the teacher says, "You don't have to come to school anymore. You get an A." So, but he, because I was answering all the questions, he says, "Well, you already know all this stuff," because I had started transcribing arrangements off of records when I was about 13, and so I knew the chord progressions and the voicings and stuff like that. So he just said, "You don't have to come to class. You get an A." And by the way, he says the teacher was working on his PhD at Indiana University. His name was Robert D. Hayes, and he his doctorate dissertation was writing a symphony. So he wrote a symphony, and he hired me to copy the parts for his symphony.
Mm-hmm.
And he taught me how to copy professionally with an ink pen on Oslid reproduction paper.
Yeah.
Transparencies. So, and that which turned later when I went moved to New York, it turned out to be a good survival skill. And I also, could copy my own arrangements and stuff like that. So that turned out to be an interesting skill. Anyway, after that semester, I changed my major to psychology, and but I continued to play in the marching band and the jazz band, and I also actually wrote some arrangements for the marching band.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Anyway, Lou Marini says you should really transfer to North Texas. So I didn't have any money, so I went on the road with the Jimmy Dorsey band, Jimmy Dorsey Big Band, and I was, for all practical purposes, Tommy Dorsey.
Yeah.
So we did one-nighters all over the United States, and Lee Castle was the leader of the band. He had actually played with the Dorsey brothers, and he knew them since childhood. And he taught me how to play in the style of Tommy Dorsey. So I saved up enough money for the first semester's tuition and about 2 months' rent. When I showed up in North Texas, I had a friend that had a place there, and so I crashed at his place, and until I could find my own apartment. Gary Grant and I found a cheap apartment above a garage someplace. It was like $90 a month, and Gary Grant went on to be probably the most recorded trumpet player in Los Angeles. He was a member of the Cherry Hay Horn section. He played on 3,500 records.
Wow.
He's now semi-retired, but still active in the Los Angeles area. And so he was lead trumpet in the 1 o'clock band, and I was lead trombone. And we were roommates and did gigs together and did all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. And weren't you playing trumpet for Brenda Lee?
That was my first big-time gig. Was I think it was Christmas 1965 or 66. I think it was Christmas 65. I started playing gigs up in Jackson, Mississippi, and most of the gigs were on trombone. And they had, when Brenda Lee came through, I had joined the union up there, and I was the only guy that could hit the high note. So I got the gig. It was 6 nights at a club called the Lone Star Roadhouse
Mm-hmm.
on Northside Drive, Jackson, Mississippi. And let's see, I had to hitchhike up there every night. I didn't have a car.
Mm-hmm.
I was living in Hattiesburg. It was 90 miles south. So I hitchhiked up there and back every night. And it was a good paying job, too. It paid $16 a night.
Mm-hmm.
So, and nobody ever picked me up. They dropped me off on the highway about 2 in the morning, and nobody ever picked me up until the sun came up. But I would get back to campus in time to go to class.
Mm-hmm.
And, that was my introduction to the big time.
Wow.
But I spent a lot of time thinking about the music profession as I was on the side of the road with my trumpet.
Yeah. Do you still talk to her?
Well, strangely enough, I was not really in touch with her on a personal level, but I just happened to be in the house band when she was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Oh, nice.
I reminded her of that. I reminded her of the gig, and she remembered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, after you graduated from college, though, you started playing with some legendary people. I'm gonna bring up some names. Tell me anything that you remember.
Well, I in fact played with a few legendary people before I graduated. Well, let's see. But by the time I graduated college, I went on the road with Woody Herman. But before
Right.
that, I had played with the Tommy Dorsey Ghost Band, of course, the Jimmy Dorsey Ghost Band. Let's see, the Les and Larry Elgart, Tex Beneke and the Glenn Miller Band. Let's see who else.
Doc Severinsen.
A whole bunch of big bands, and I became the contractor in North Texas State.
Mm-hmm.
People like Warren Covington would come through, and he'd say, I need a band. I need a 16-piece band.
Mm-hmm.
Houston, Saturday night. And I would hire all the guys. We'd drive 350 miles and sight read music for 4 hours, no rehearsal. And so I became the contractor for North Texas State, and I was a contractor on all these gigs I was telling you about.
Yeah.
It basically started with Warren Covington, who I contracted for in Mississippi. And so he gave my name to other people in New York, and I started contracting for everybody, all these big bands that would come in. And so somebody in New York gave my name to some guys in Motown, and they called me up one day, and they wanted me to book a horn section for a 3-day tour. Dallas, Shreveport, and Houston. And this was, let's see, it was the show was Martha and the Vandellas,
Mm-hmm.
the Supremes, and the Temptations. And they brought a rhythm section from Detroit. So that really opened up my eyes. I ended up contracting another gig for them for Marvin Gaye, before Marvin Gaye was really that famous.
Yeah.
For what's going on. We're still talking 1968, 69.
Yeah.
And I also contracted a band for 2 nights with little Stevie Wonder when he was 16 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Stevie Wonder made a big impression on me too. For some reason, he liked me, and he would like hang out with me. And he said, "Man, I'm writing my own songs. You want to hear some of it?" In 1969, he had a high-quality portable cassette machine and a high-quality pair of headphones. And, "Do you want to check it out, man?" I said, "Sure." So I put on the headphones and I listened to some amazing music.
Yeah.
And I said, "Who wrote this?" He said, "I wrote everything." I said, "Who plays on it?" He said, "I play everything."
Wow.
So he played drums, bass, guitar, piano, organ, and all the vocals on this music. Years later, I'm thinking it might have been 1976, his record called Talking Book came out. And it had some of these original songs of his on it. Prior to that, little Stevie Wonder just sang the songs that the Motown staff writers gave him.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to play with Stevie Wonder on many occasions on TV after that. Matter of fact, when I played with Stevie, I said, "Stevie, I'm moving to New York next month." He says, "Great." He says, "Come by the Coca Cabana. I'm playing there. Blah blah blah." I gave him the dates, and he says, "Come to the backstage, and I'll introduce you to my contractor in New York." So wasn't that a nice thing for the guy to do?
Yeah. Wow. And Illusions,
Yeah.
that's a great album, Illusions.
Oh my God! Yeah, all the stuff he put out was. So I got to play with him on several occasions, like on Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
I got to play with him on at Letterman show, big TV special called Save the Music, I think it was called. And they made an album called A Very Special Christmas every year. And it had, like at least 8 or 10 different artists on it. And it was part of a live TV show broadcast. So I did that. I was on A Very Special Christmas 5, which was recorded in a tent on the White House lawn. And so we're in place on the stage rehearsing, and in TV, frequently they stop things to move the cameras or stop things to change the lighting. So they said, okay, band, take a break, but don't leave. Stay in position, because we're gonna change the lighting. So Stevie Wonder starts playing Giant Steps by himself on the keyboard. Da 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 da. And then he starts blowing on it. He's just all over it.
Yeah.
But, like a finished jazz musician. Suddenly the director says, cut. And we go back into playing our song, A Very Special Christmas. But anyway, and then the last time I played with Stevie was on the Letterman show in 2015, shortly before the show closed down. I wrote an arrangement of I Wish, and we did it with a house band. And I ran into Stevie on the elevator, and I said, Stevie, it's Tom, the trumpet player from Albuquerque.
Yeah.
He says, it's nice to see you.
It's nice to see you.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's pretty good.
So I played with quite a few people before I actually got to New York. And after I got to New York, I just called up. One day I just decided to move to New York, and I called up a trombone player named Bob Burgess. He was the lead trombone player with every big band there ever was. Stan Kenton, Buddy Rich.
Wasn't he on the Tonight Show or something?
Beg your pardon?
Wasn't he on the Tonight Show with Doc Severinsen?
He used to sub on the show in New York, but he was never a real regular band with Doc Severinsen.
Okay.
However, so I got to New York in 1970. I'm crashing on Bob Burgess' floor, and he had a really cheap apartment in New York, and then he went back on the road with Woody a couple months later, and I inherited this really cheap apartment in New York in 1970. It was $67.50 a month.
Wow.
I mean, it was kind of a can't use the word, but it was kind of a hole in the wall. I was going to use a more vibrant term. It was kind of a hole in the wall apartment, but I was happy there. I was I could survive there. So a friend of mine, a few months later, from North Texas State, Hannibal Marvin Peterson. He was a black jazz trumpet player, singer, a blues singer, and he calls me up, says, I'm coming to New York, and I crash on your floor. And I said, sure, come on up, man. So Marvin started playing with Rasan Roland Kirk and Gil Evans. So one night, Marvin says, hey, man, I got 2 gigs. And one of them doesn't pay anything. That's the one with Gil Evans. So you want to sub for me? And I said, sure. So I went down to West Beth and played with the Gil Evans Orchestra. So for a gig that didn't pay any money, I met all these people who changed the rest of my life. I met Howard Johnson, who played tuba, baritone sax, and a bunch of other instruments. He loved me because I played tuba and played a bunch of instruments like him. We became instant friends. A few years later, they asked him to put together the horn section for this new TV show called Saturday Night with Mike. And, of course, so boom. I also met Lou Soloff, legendary trumpet player with Blood, Sweat, and Tears. A couple years later, boom, they called me to play with them. I was on the road with them for a year. I was with Gil Evans for 15 years. I met David Sanborn there that night. He was also in the Gil Evans band, and for the first few years there. And I remember playing on his first demo. Dave used to come up to my house. He moved to New York and was crashing at Gil Evans' place, and he'd come up to my apartment and twice a week. And went over to Jimmy Madison's house. He had a TI 4-track tape recorder, and we made a demo of 4 songs. Let's see, Steve Gadd, Will Lee, Don Grolnick, Michael Brecker, Randy Brecker, Howard Johnson, and Steve Kahn. And so that demo got Dave his first record deal, a record called Taking Off. And so we all played on that record, and I ended up playing on Dave's first 3 records. Who else did I meet that night? Oh, my God. All kinds of other people that just helped me down the road.
Yeah.
Billy Harper. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
So you never know. You never know what's going to happen. You never know who you're going to meet.
Yeah.
So you never know exactly what's going to go down.
Yeah. So you play.
And then.
Oh, go ahead.
We were the weekend band for Doc during the whole year of 1971. We played every Saturday and Sunday someplace in the United States, and it was a good paying gig. And with Snooky Young, Lou Tabakin, Lou Marini, Ross Tompkins, Ed Shaughnessy, John B. Williams. That was the year that the show moved from New York to Los Angeles, the Tonight Show, that is. Anyway, the weekend band kept going, and one night we found ourselves playing on the Tonight Show in Los Angeles, the featured music, the weekend band. And we played Only the Beginnings by Chicago, and I played a trombone solo on camera. I think it was my first TV trombone solo. After the gig, go back to the hotel there in Burbank, and Lou Marini and I are roommates. Trumpet player named Sal Marquez, that we had gone to school with in North Texas, was living in Los Angeles at the time. So he comes over to hang out with us at the hotel. So I said, Sal Marquez. I said, Sal, what are you doing in Los Angeles? And he says, I'm playing with Frank Zappa's Grand Wazoo. What's that? He says, it's a 20-piece instrumental band. He says, our tuba player, Howard Johnson, is moving back to New York. We're looking for a tuba player. Do you know anybody that plays tuba? And about that time, Sal trips over my tuba that's on the floor in the hotel room. He says, you play the tuba, don't you, Tom? And I said, yeah. I was playing tuba, bass trombone, and trombone with Doc Severance's weekend band. So he says, you want to play with Frank? And I said, sure. So he calls up Frank from the hotel room phone, and he's talking to Frank. Well, I know this guy, blah, blah, blah. I went to school with him. And Frank obviously asked him, I said, well, how does this guy sound on the tuba? He says, well, Frank, I've never heard him play the tuba. Says, Tom, how do you sound on the tuba? And I picked up the tuba and played it for Frank over the telephone, and he hired me.
Nice.
That's kind of absurd in itself. So the next day, we go over to Frank's house, and Frank says to me, Sal tells me you play some other instruments besides the tuba. And I said, yes. So well, give me a list. So I put down on the list, bass trombone, trumpet, flugelhorn, piccolo trumpet, tenor sax, flute, and piccolo. And I showed up for rehearsal 2 weeks later, and he had rearranged all of his music so that I had a part on every instrument.
Wow, that's amazing.
Frank wrote all his own arrangements for that band, too. He was quite prolific. He'd stay up all night and copy the parts and everything.
Wow.
So I did the Grand Wazoo tour. I remember we played the Hollywood Bowl. We played Symphony Hall in Boston. Berlin, the Oval, London, played Rotterdam. We played, all over the place with that band. Then Frank cut the band down to a 12-piece band, and he called it the Mothers of Invention. And we did a tour in the United States, and then he cut the band down to a 10-piece band. They called that the Mothers of Invention, and we did a tour of the United States. Both those bands now have been renamed the Petit Wazoo. But when we actually did the tours, it was the Mothers of Invention. So while I was rehearsing for the last tour, and I got a call from Bill Chase. He was a trumpet player that was with Woody Herman's band when I was with them in 1969. He had his own band called Chase. Do you remember them?
Chase, no.
Chase? Well, that's a dead story anyway. So I did the 10-piece tour with Frank in 1972. And then Frank says, I'm cutting the band down to a 6-piece band for the next tour. And he said, it's only going to have one horn in the band, and that's going to be Bruce Fowler. So I said, fine with me. Frank says, Bruce tells me that you play electric bass. I said, yes. Does you want to audition for the gig? I said, sure. So I went over to Frank Zappa's house one day, and I auditioned playing electric bass. And I remember George Duke was there. Mm. And I thought it sounded pretty good. A couple of weeks go by, and I hear through the grapevine he's auditioning other guys that played with him before, guys that sang and played. So a couple of weeks go by, I didn't hear from Frank, so I called Frank, left a message on his phone saying, Frank, it's Tom. What's going on? Let me know. Nothing. Another week goes by. I get a call from Blood, Sweat, and Tears in New York, and they said, we need a trumpet player. Chuck Winfield is leaving the band. This is right at the beginning of 1973, January 1973. Chuck Winfield is leaving the band. We need a trumpet player. Can you be in New York tomorrow? And I said, sure. Gave my car away, checked all the stuff I needed, and threw everything else away, and moved back to New York. The next day, Frank Zappa called to say I had the job playing with his new 6-piece band, was George Duke and Jean-Luc Ponty. And anyway, I was gone, and I never looked back. I recommended Bruce's brother, Tom Fowler, who was quite a good electric bass player, played with Frank for 3 or 4 years. Dan sounded great with him. Frank loved him. So I never looked back, but that was a close hinging point in my career. It could have changed drastically.
Yeah.
Wait for 24 hours. Anyway, so I'm back in New York playing with Blood, Sweat, and Tears. Lou Soloff and Lou Marini in the section, and we toured all over the place, including a 6-week tour of Europe. Just had a great time playing with the band. I played with Blood, Sweat, and Tears for a year, and then got off the band and stayed in New York, and started playing with Gil Evans, as often as I could. We did some little week-long tours all over the United States with Frank. We did some European tours with Frank. Then Blood, Sweat, and Tears came around in the fall of 1975. During that same period, 74, 75, I got married, and my first child was born on November 5th, about 2 months after Saturday Night Live started. So that gig was very fortunate. It kept me in town, kept me off the road, and it kept me with my family.
Oh, that's great.
Saturday Night Live went on for 10 years, from 75 to 85. And I was the music director of the show from 81 to 85. And quite a few things happened in between. I became the arranger for the show pretty much from day one. And a group called The Band. Do you remember a group called The Band?
Oh, yeah, Robbie Robertson.
Robbie Robertson, Lee Von Helm, Garth Hudson. Anyway, so they were on the show in 1976, and music director asked me to write some horn arrangements, to go along with their music. And I met the guys, and I played with them, and we formed they loved the horn section, and they liked me, and so I ended up going on tour with the band in the summer of 1976 with Howard Johnson, in the horn section. And in the fall of 1976, we did a concert in San Francisco that was filmed.
Yep, The Last Waltz.
Martin Scorsese made a movie out of it called The Last Waltz.
Yeah.
And it had quite a few rock stars at the time. Eric Clapton, Joni Mitchell.
Van Morrison.
Van Morrison was actually the hottest thing on the live show. Dr. John, B.B. King, and Neil Young, on and on, right?
Yeah.
It took them 2 years to put the movie out because they overdubbed almost everything, including the horn section. And I think Levon refused to overdub anything, but I think everybody else, just about every other note was overdubbed in all the post-production stuff. And some scenes were reshot too. With the background singers and everything, that was reshot. If you watch the movie again, if if it's just kind of a smoky background with roadies sitting on road cases in the background, that's the real concert. But once in a while, you'll see a set that's completely perfect Hollywood set with lighting and everything like that.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that were reshot. I think there was two of the songs were reshot. The Wait, and I'm trying to remember which other one. Anyway, that was quite a big deal for me. Was going on the road with those guys, and also, I was still doing Saturday Night Live after that, but Levon Helm formed his own band called Levon Helm and the RCO All-Stars.
Mm-hmm.
And that was basically 76, 77, 78. And we made a couple of albums, and we did a few gigs, including a tour of Japan. And that band was, it was Levon Helm, Steve Cropper, Duck Dunn, Paul Butterfield, Dr. John,
mm-hmm.
Booker T, Alan Rubin, Lou Marini, Howard Johnson, and myself.
Wow.
Yeah, that was quite a decent band too. So, band broke up after maybe 2 or 3 years, but we had some fun, and I remember we played the Superdome in New Orleans during Mardi Gras. It was one of the gigs that we did with that band.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was one of the nice things about Saturday Night Live was that we were busy during the school year, but in the summer, there'd be 4 months off in the summer,
mm-hmm.
a gig, so that freed me up to do some touring with various groups in the summertime. So that was a memorable experience too.
Yeah.
So one day, it was March or April 1978. The music director, Howard Shore, calls me up. I'm the arranger for the show. He says, "Can you meet with Danny and John at John's office at 2 o'clock on Monday?" So I go over to John Belushi's office that day, and Danny and John, the show had a week off the week before, and Danny and John just went out to San Francisco just to hang out.
Mm-hmm.
And they ended up hanging out with a guy named Curtis Salgado, who was a blues harmonica player,
mm-hmm.
with Rubber Cray Blues Band.
Yeah.
So we ended up hanging out with him and listening to the blues records all night one night. Danny knew a good bit about blues. He was part of the blues scene, and he played harmonica up in Toronto prior to Saturday Night Live.
Mm-hmm.
John was from Chicago, but he didn't even know anything about Chicago blues. He was like a garage rock and roll drummer.
Mm-hmm.
So on the airplane going back from San Francisco the next day, because the Saturday night they hung out all night. Sunday they're on the airplane coming back to New York, and Danny starts telling John about the history of the blues. And so John says, "Well, why don't we make up some characters that are blues musicians?" And they're sort of ne'er-do-wells, and they're orphans with very little emotional response. They start developing the characters on the airplane. And so by the time the meeting comes up on 2 o'clock on Monday,
mm-hmm.
They've done some character development for these characters. And they're telling me about the Blues Brothers.
Right.
And they said, "We want you to write an arrangement of a song called Rocket 88 by James Cotton."
Yeah.
So I wrote this arrangement, and we rehearsed the Saturday Night Live band. We played the song for Lorne Michaels. Lorne Michaels shot us down. He did not choose us to be on the show.
Oh.
So the following week, John and Danny are still hot on this idea about the Blues Brothers, so they asked me to write an arrangement of a song called "Hey Bartender." I wrote the arrangement. We rehearsed the Saturday Night Live band. We did it for Lorne Michaels. Shot us down week number 2. He said, "Frankly, I don't see anything funny about the Blues Brothers." So the 3rd week in a row, our general production schedule at Saturday Night Live was we would do 3 shows in a row on Saturday night, and then we would have a week off. So week number 3, John and Danny figured, well, if Lauren doesn't like this, if we're not going to get on, we might as well move on to something else. After read-through the 3rd week, Lauren comes out. This is like Wednesday about 3:30 in the afternoon. Mm-hmm. Lauren comes out of read-through, and he says, "The show is 3 minutes short. What the hell are we going to do?" And John and Danny jump on it, and they say, "Lauren, the Blues Brothers." So Lauren said, "Well, we have nothing worthwhile to put in those 3 minutes. We might as well let you guys make fools of yourselves." He puts the Blues Brothers on the show.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so now this is way before internet, way before cell phones and texting and all that kind of stuff,
right.
email. But anyway, the Monday morning, the switchboard lit up with calls, and letters and cards started coming in. And apparently, the TV fans loved the Blues Brothers. So we ended up getting another shot on the show, and another shot on the show, and then John and Danny decided they wanted to start a separate band, separate from Saturday Night Live. They wanted to start a band called the Blues Brothers Band. Mm-hmm. So I helped them put the band together, and I got Alan Rubin into the band. I got Steve Cropper and Doug Dunn into the band, and we, I guess the rest is kind of history. But our first gig was opening act for Steve Martin at Carnegie Hall. Mm-hmm. So who says you don't start at the top?
Yeah, and you guys recorded the album opening for him at Winterland, right? Or
well, it was actually
Universal.
in Los Angeles at Universal Amphitheater.
Right, Universal. That's right. I got the two mixed up.
We did 9 nights at the Universal Amphitheater, and the producer of the album, Bob Tischler, recording engineer producer, he edited from night to night. Some of those songs have 30 edits in them. Yeah. It's like the single Soul Man. It has the verses from one night and the choruses from another night, and then other parts of the song from different nights. So, and you can actually, it was an outdoor venue at the time, the Universal Amphitheater back then in
78.
78, yeah, that's right. It was a fall, it was September, second week in September of 1978 when we did that. Okay, a little known fact. Who's the guy who used to do all the USO shows?
Bob Hope.
Bob Hope. Okay. Bob Hope was one of the wealthiest guys in California. Right. He bought up land in the San Fernando Valley way back. He owns Universal City. He owns the property that Universal City is built on. He owns the land that Universal Pictures rents the land from Bob Hope. Universal back lot rented from Bob Hope. Mm-hmm. Universal Amphitheater rented from Bob Hope. Universal Sheraton rented from Bob Hope. Universal that whole amusement park they have. It's all owned by Bob Hope. Mm-hmm. Bob Hope's house, the backyard of Bob Hope's house goes to right up to the Universal Amphitheater. Right. At the bottom of the hill there. He had a 4-hole golf course in his backyard. Not sure how many acres it was. Yeah. Anyway, so in the middle of our recording one night, Bob Tischler, the recording engineer, gets a call, and it says, "This is Bob. You think you could turn it down?"
Really? Wow.
Sorry. Yeah. We had a hit single on Soul Man. We sold 3 million albums right off the top, and we did it. The next thing you know, Danny's writing a script for a movie, and he interviewed the guys in the band to get stories. You know, I gave him a chicken wire story. Steve and Doug may have given him a similar story from up in the Memphis area too. Yeah. Anyway, we ended up doing the movie, and movie was a big hit. I guess the rest is kind of history with Blues Brothers.
Yeah, my dad.
So in fall of 1981, we did a tour in 1980, about a 5-week tour in a chartered plane. Mm-hmm. At the end of the tour, we went back to the amphitheater and did 7 nights there, and we did. They edited the album "Made in America" out of those performances. Right. Yeah. Bob Tischler, the producer of the album, became a line producer at Saturday Night Live in the fall of 1981, when Dick Ebersol became the executive producer of the show. And Bob hired me to be the music director of Saturday Night Live from 81 to 85. Mm-hmm. And we had quite a few cool experiences there, too. Nice. I was arranging for the show, and I remember one time, Olivia Newton-John's going to be on the show this next week. Oh, great. When's she loading in? She's not loading in. She doesn't have a band. Robert Plant and the Honey Drippers, the singer from Led Zeppelin. He has a hit record. He's going to be on the show next week. Oh, man, what time is the band going to load in? He doesn't have a band. It was a studio album. You have to put the band together for him. So I had a lot of stuff like that, a lot of heavy deadline arranging stuff, but it was fun. I averaged about 96 hours a week there.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. But it was a lot of fun, and I got to work with Eddie Murphy, and I wrote the music to Hot Tub. I don't know if you ever saw that one.
Hot Tub. Oh, yeah. James Brown.
Yeah.
Hot Tub. Yeah. Classic.
I wrote the music and produced the pre-record for that. I did not write the words, but I composed the music. I had played and recorded with James Brown by that point in my life, too, so I had played live and did television and recorded with James Brown. I was on Give Me My Thing and Funky President by James Brown in the early 70s.
Wow. Yeah.
Working with Eddie Murphy, Joe Piscopo, Martin Short, Billy Crystal. Those were the years that I was the music director. I had quite a few wonderful experiences working with those people.
Wow. Yeah, Lorne Michaels, he left for a little while. Dick Ebersol came on. What was the difference between the two of them as producers?
Well, Dick Ebersol wasn't as active in the comedic aspects of the show. But he was good at administrating things. So he had Michael O'Donoghue and Bob Tischler were basically the line producers, and they basically did the real comedy work. Dick Ebersol had gone to school with Brandon Tartikoff, who was the director of late-night programming they both gone to school at Yale. So they were roommates at Yale. So that's kind of the way Dick got the job. And then the reason Dick left Saturday Night Live was that Tartikoff moved up in the company, and Tartikoff hired Dick to be the head of NBC Sports, which was a better paying gig. So I thought I'd still be at Saturday Night Live. One day they said the associate producer calls me and says, comes in my office, and she says, Dick Ebersol just resigned. Clean out your office. It was just like that. So, just kind of starting over.
Oh, man. Yeah, going back a little bit to the Blues Brothers movie, my dad and we used to watch this movie when my mom wasn't home when I was a kid.
Of course.
I still think it's the best Saturday Night Live movie. And I told Willie and Lou this. When you get a movie about a band, the lead singer of the band usually has all the lines, and the only dialogue the band members have is, that was a great rehearsal, when's our next gig? And that's it. But with you guys...
Yeah, exactly. What time does the bus leave?
Yeah. You guys had some laugh-out-loud, hilarious lines. Like, they treated you guys on an equal level.
Well, that's true. They didn't have to do that. They did. Matter of fact, Universal didn't want the band. They want the band to do the pre-records, and they said, like we'll get some Hollywood guys to pretend to. And Danny and John, no, we're not doing this unless the band comes with us. I think they acknowledged that the band was a certain part of their success, and so, I guess, okay, maybe I'm bragging a little bit, but I thought it was only right for us to be in there. As far as being great actors, I don't see myself as being a great actor, but it was nice to have a few lines in there.
Yeah.
No, I thought, as far as acting is concerned, I thought Willie Hall was brilliant, and Alan Rubin. I thought Alan Rubin was brilliant. And as a matter of fact, after the success of the movie, Bernie Brillstein called up Alan and said, look, kid, you could have a really good career out here. Says, I'll be your agent. And because he was agent for the Muppets, he was executive producer for the Blues Brothers.
Yeah.
he was manager for Lorne Michaels, John Belushi, Dan Aykroyd. Who else? Long list of
lots of
famous
people.
Hollywood people. He was one of the hottest guys in Los Angeles. And Alan just totally blew him off.
Wow.
Yeah, Alan could have. He could have moved to Hollywood. Anyway, I just thought I'd throw that in.
Yeah. I love your line about Matt Guitar Murphy. He opened up a soul food restaurant and he took Blue Lou with him.
Yeah.
It's a great one.
Yeah, and there was a scene that was cut out of the original movie. The original movie was 107 minutes, and
I have that cut.
Cut it so short was that they could show the movie more times during the day at the theater.
Yeah.
But it was 107 minutes. So I think that when the 25th anniversary of the movie came around, they came out with an anniversary version that was 132 minutes. So they threw a lot of stuff back in there.
Yeah.
The Twiggy at the gas station, where the gas station blows up.
Yeah.
that scene was left out of the original movie. That one blow up scene was $40,000.
Yeah.
And then there was the scene where I'm in front of the chicken wire, and Bob hands me the song list or something like that. That was left out of the original movie too. So a lot of stuff was thrown back in there, and so I at least got that one little scene back.
Yeah. I remember there's a scene that was cut where Bob gives you that song list, and then you look at him like he's crazy because it's all country songs.
Yeah. Well, we were supposed to be acting as if, like, what the hell are we doing here in the first place?
Yeah.
It wasn't really our gig. We're the good old boys. We just kind of walked in and.
Yeah.
that was the guy that played
Bob.
Bob's Country Bunker. Now, he was a professional cowboy actor in Hollywood for years and years.
Yeah.
And he used to come over to the band trailer. While a lot of times you spend most of your time waiting in the trailer when you're making a movie as an actor. So anyway, Bob used to come over and play cards with us. And so one day I asked him, I said, "What's it like being a cowboy actor in Hollywood?" He said, "Oh, it used to be a lot of work here back when they were routinely making cowboy movies. Like when I was a little kid, we used to go to the movies on Saturday morning, and they were just all cowboy movies."
Yeah.
But anyway, he says one of his friends did such a good job. One of his friends was the mountain man in Deliverance. He said the guy didn't work for 10 years because he did such a convincing job. He scared everybody in the business.
Oh, man.
Bob was a piece of work, though. He was just one of the people we met.
Yeah. Now I asked the other guys this, but neither of them can confirm this. Is it true that there was a take where Ray Charles took the gun out too early and almost shot Belushi?
Oh. Wow. Well, it wasn't a real gun anyway, right?
Yeah, it was blanks, but like he almost shot Belushi, and Belushi just panicked. That was the story I heard.
I'd love to say that was true because it's funny, but I can't honestly confirm that.
Wow.
Ray was a lot of fun, though. He was just amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it must have been just an honor to play with him because it's just he's one of the greats. He's Ray Charles,
Well, when I was I wasn't before I was a music director at Saturday Night Live. When I was the arranger, Ray came on the show, and he brought his original horn section of 5 guys from back. I Got a Woman and all that period of his career. He had a 5-piece horn section, and they reassembled that horn section. And he had a big band album out. It was his current release. So I rearranged his big band charts for his 5 horns and our 5 horns. So we had a 10-piece horn section. And so we're rehearsing my chart, and Ray's sitting over in the corner, and he stops the band, and he says, "Tenor sax, bar 37. That should be a B flat instead of a B natural."
Mm-hmm.
Now, how did he know that?
Yeah, it's just like with Stevie.
I mean, that totally blew my mind. But the guy was certainly a genius, I got to say.
Yeah, with the piano keys.
Work with him.
Yeah, the piano keys reflecting on his sunglasses. That's hilarious.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, what a piece of work he is.
How long did it take to film the concert at the end?
Well, the final concert scene, we were in there for a week.
Mm-hmm.
It was filmed at the Hollywood Palladium on Hollywood Boulevard. And the audience, there was 600 Screen Actors Guild. And then the rest remaining 1,200 were Screen Extras Guild.
Mm-hmm.
They got $50 in lunch. But, there was 1,800 people in the audience.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
We were in there for a week shooting those various scenes. Gab Galloway, though, he was a piece of work, too. Oh, my God.
Yeah, another legend.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, so talented.
Mm-hmm.
Just the way the guy danced. He was not a young man at the time, either.
No, he was like 80.
He was just all over it. We backed him up at the with a traveling version of the Blues Brothers Band that I put together in 1989.
Mm-hmm.
We backed him up at the Pori Jazz Festival in Finland. It's about 2 hours north of Helsinki. And he was just all over the stage. He was in his 70s, and he was just dancing all over the place. His granddaughter was in the movie, in the act, too, when we played with her. Amazing, talented guy.
Mm-hmm.
Respect. He had his own band in 1939. Snooky Young was the lead trumpet player with him.
Yeah, he was around a long time, that guy.
Well, he went back further than that. I'm trying to remember that Heidi Heidi Ho was in a movie way, way, way back. It would have been 1929.
Yeah, it was an old one by that point.
Yeah, he'd been around the block, but he was super talented.
Were you disappointed about the way Blues Brothers 2000 came out?
Well, it came out the same week as Titanic. And the other thing was that how can you follow up a John Belushi movie without John Belushi?
Yeah.
So, and there was the original idea, if I remember correctly, was Danny and Landis were pitching Jim Belushi,
right,
as Jake, and I either don't know or can't tell you the details, but Jim got carved out of it, and John Goodman, I thought, did a great job, and I'm trying to remember Joe Morton also did a great job. There were kind of like three Blues Brothers in there. But once again, see, how can you follow up a John Belushi movie without John Belushi?
Yeah.
It is. But one of the best things ever put on film is the Gator Boys band. There's a Battle of the Bands.
Yeah.
Towards the end of the movie, and it's supposed to be in Louisiana. And that band is the biggest all-star rock and roll band ever put together.
Mm-hmm.
Man for man, that I can remember in my own brain. And we only had them for one day. I remember, I wrote the horn arrangements for the song, and Clarence Clemens shows up, and he doesn't read music. So Lou Marini took him over in a corner and played the part for him, and he picked it up instantly. Mm-hmm. But so you never know what's going to happen in this business.
Yeah.
We only had that band for one day of shooting too, so we had to get that done, and that involved their song, and it also involved the song where both bands played together.
Yeah, there's some great.
That was a good experience too. Sadly, a lot of those people in that scene are gone.
Yeah, there's some funny moments in the movie, like Ghost Riders in the Sky.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was a wasted opportunity. I've heard Aykroyd talk about it in interviews that he feels bad how everything went down with it. But I wanted to mention, though, I love that version of She Caught the Katy in the original.
Oh, yeah.
I love it. That's a great version you guys did.
Oh, yeah, I love that song.
Yeah. You wrote a song called Home Alone for the movie Sister Act. Is that true?
Home Alone Home Alone. Yes, I wrote the music for Home Alone, and it was when the guy goes over to the girlfriend's house. Mm-hmm. It's a song that's playing on the radio, and you can't really hear it. I wrote kind of how would I describe the song? Kind of a mellow flugelhorn kind of melody that you hear, kind of smooth jazz kind of song.
Yeah.
But that was a last minute thing. It was like 2 a.m. Mark Shaman was scoring the movie. He says, "Oh man, I forgot to write this cue. Can you write it for me?" I arranged the chase scene in the casino in that movie.
Oh.
Shaman was the composer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went out to Hollywood and helped Mark score that movie.
He's a talented composer, that guy.
Well, now, I gave Mark his first job in television. When I was music director at Saturday Night Live, I hired him as my rehearsal piano player. He was 23 years old. And he went on to work with Martin Short and Billy Crystal and score movies. And he wrote the music to Hairspray on Broadway, Catch Me If You Can on Broadway.
Yeah.
He had his own TV show called Smash.
Wow, I didn't realize that you mentored him. That's great. He's a talented guy.
Super talented guy. He was a genius when I met him. He just had it. He just instead of going to high school, instead of going to high school when he was 14, he went on the road with Bette Midler.
Really?
Yeah, he's her piano player. By the time he was 19, he was music director for Peter Allen on Broadway.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, just totally self-taught, natural talent. You know, he was right out of the box, just super talented. He used to amaze me. You know, all the things all the stuff he could hear and understand was just amazing.
Yeah,
he's still out there getting it done.
Yeah, it's
went to his 60th birthday party recently.
Yeah, it's like Marvin Hamlish level of genius there, you know?
Oh, my God. Yeah, super. Oh, Rob Reiner was there, Billy Crystal, Martin Short. It was, Bette Midler, all these people were at the birthday party, too. It was kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
List of people there.
How did the Late Show with David Letterman come to you? Well,
I met Paul Schaefer in 1975 when he was in the original band at Saturday Night Live.
Right.
He has a degree in sociology at the University of Toronto. He became the music director at a Broadway show up in Toronto. It might have been the Magic Show, and then the conductor in New York quit. Paul moved to New York to do that job, and then Saturday Night Live came around, and he just happened to be in town, and he knew Howard Shore and everybody, so he ended up in the original band at Saturday Night Live. We met then. We worked on quite a few things. After the Blues Brothers movie, I told you I became the music director at Saturday Night Live in 1981.
Right.
In 1982, I got a call from my my unit manager named Liz Anderson. She used to fill out my union contracts. I was a contractor for the show at the time, too. She would fill out the union contracts for me. I'd give her a report, and she would actually fill out the contracts and file them with the union. So she calls me up one day, and she says, I got a new job. I'm the associate producer of the David Letterman Show. And I said, what is that? She says, you've never seen it before. It comes on early in the morning. But we are going to change the show over to late night. We are looking for a band leader to lead a four-piece band. And she said, I was hoping you could do it, but, you know, I have a feeling that that you're going to turn me down because it doesn't pay very much. And I said, well, now Paul Schaefer had just gotten back. I said, you should call this kid Paul Schaefer. Paul had just gotten back from L.A. He went out to L.A. to be an actor in a series with Greg Havigan called A Year at the Top. And the show went about 5-6 episodes. The network pulled the plug. Paul came back to New York about 2 weeks before this telephone call. I said, you should call this kid Paul Schaefer. He'll take care of it. And I gave her Paul's phone number. And they hired him. And the show started out, you know, somewhat low budget. But that's the way they survived. A lot of new shows, you know, start with a high budget, and they just can't sustain. They can't get to the point where they sell advertising.
Right.
But anyway, they started out with a modest paying gig, but they developed their audience, and you know, the rest is history. So when the show was half owned by Johnny Carson Productions, and Dave always thought he'd take over Tonight Show when Johnny retired. But when Johnny retired, the network executives had their own idea.
Yeah.
They decided that if they moved Letterman from late night to late night, they'd only have one show. So they said, well, let's keep Dave late night, and we'll get somebody else to be, you know. So they hired Jay Jay Leno. And it just so happened that Dave's contract expired about that time.
Mm-hmm.
So he started a bidding war with Michael Ovitz out in Hollywood, and before you know it, there was a bidding war between the other two networks, ABC and CBS. And so he ended up with a pretty good deal. Mm-hmm. And so Paul called me to play in the band. That way he decided he wanted to have a horn section in the band. He just wanted to keep the same band he had, the same four-piece band he had at the other show. Mm-hmm. But the network people gave him a lot of grief. You know, like you should have a bigger band like the Johnny Carson show or the whatever other shows were on TV that had bigger bands at the time. So he added a horn section. He added me on trumpet, his halfway on tenor sax, and then 3 or 4 years down the line, he hired Al Ches to be full-time trumpet player, and then so I became more trombone, baritone sax, whatever else they might need.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So was it a good gig overall?
I immediately became Paul's arranger, too.
Yeah. Was it a good gig overall?
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. Well, it paid for my house, paid for my cars, put my kids through college. What can I tell you?
Yeah. Were you there all the way until he retired, though?
I was, yes. I was on the last show. And I got to say, Dave treated us very well. Paul and I are still very good friends. It was a really, really great run. So people ask me sometimes, they say, what is it like to be a professional arranger? Well, I got a story for you. Mm-hmm. One night, we used to shoot the show at between 4:30 and 5:30. So after the show, one night, can you meet with Paul in his office? Meet with Paul. He says, Renee Fleming is going to be on the show tomorrow. She's going to do the top 10. We need 13 opera excerpts by 11 in the morning for the rehearsal. He has 2 CDs. He says, first CD is, these are the 13 opera excerpts. And the second CD is, this is Renee Fleming's recent recording. Figure out what key she should sing them in. And then he says to me, how are we going to pull this off? I said, okay, I'm thinking opera. I said, I'll play flute. Aaron, our saxophone player, will play oboe. We'll hire a clarinet player, and we'll hire a French horn player. And you can play the string parts on the string synthesizer. So, 11 in the morning, I show up, and everything's in the right key except one song. So I had my computer with me. I transposed it. We printed it out right there at the rehearsal, and everything was great. And I was also, all night while I was staying up doing this arranging, I was thinking to myself, oh, Renee Fleming's got to be a real diva. How are we going to deal with her? Mm-hmm. She turned out to be perfectly nice, very professional, great sense of humor. Couldn't have been nicer. And I think that's on YouTube. If you do Renee Fleming Top 10 Letterman, actually watch that sequence.
Well, I'll check it out. Yeah, I used to love those top 10 lists. That was one of the reasons why I watched the show.
Oh yeah, it was always very timely.
Yeah. So do you have any upcoming projects or gigs coming up that you can talk about?
Wow. Well, I'm supposed to play some gigs in Italy in April, but I think they're going to get canceled.
Oh, yeah.
And recently, in the last 3 years, I've been playing with Gary Sinise, Lieutenant Dan Band. They just canceled the next 5 gigs, because of the coronavirus.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to say what is coming up in the future. It's kind of an uncertain future, as you might know. Mm-hmm. What part of the country are you in?
I'm in Redding, California.
Oh, North California.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. I guess there's not too many cases up there. I hope it stays like that.
Yeah, we've only had like 1 case so far that we know of, and it's still scary though. But I'm hoping that the vaccinations will happen soon. I mean, it's not going to cure everything overnight, but at least it's going to give everyone closure.
Well, yeah, we need. I kept seeing on the news that Israel was coming up with a vaccine really quickly. So turns turns out there's been a coronavirus for many, many, many years, but this is some new strain of it that just jumped out.
Yeah, because it was in China for many years, and then it just hit here. It's just, we don't know what happened.
Well, we're trying to, like the people around this neighborhood now are not shaking hands anymore.
Yeah.
And washing hands all the time. I just saw here on the news that a metal door handle will hold the virus for 2 days.
Wow.
So it's kind of scary. Yeah.
That's very scary.
Wiping doorknobs with alcohol and washing hands.
Mm-hmm. Gosh.
That's a crazy world.
It is a crazy world. But hopefully everything will be under control, and you will continue working out there, Tom. I thank you so much for coming on today. This was a great talk.
It's my pleasure to talk with you, and it was nice. Thank you for inviting me to be on the show.
My pleasure, sir. You have yourself a great day over there.
And you do the same. And if you have, if there's anything that we left out, or you want to, just send me an email. We'll get back on the phone, and we'll throw it in there.
I appreciate it, sir. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate it very much. And I'm working on a book, and the working title of the book right now is Name Dropper.
It's your autobiography.
Did I send you resume and bio?
I don't think you did. No.
Okay, I'm gonna email that to you right now too. So yeah, and like I said before, if you have any any further questions, or you want to go into something a little more deeply or whatever, just we'll communicate with me and we'll make it happen.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Have a good day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, there you have it. Tom Bones Malone. Ain't he a cool dude? Man, great stories. Very smart guy, I have to say. Very insightful. Man, he's lived quite a life in the world of rock and music. If you like this video, everyone, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Add me as a friend on Facebook. Join my Tommy Kovac Comedian page on Facebook. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram and all that fun stuff. Well, that's all the time we have this week on Splat from the Past. Until next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying, there's no shame in living in the past, because the present sucks. Later, dudes, and wash your hands.